welcome to VO2 Performance Center. I'm here with TJ Tollakson, friend and professional triathlete who's visiting Seattle for the weekend to help out with the Power Squad presentation. He's actually going to talk about training and racing with a power meter. Also, I have here alongside him very good friend and VO2 Performance Center investor Chris Whyte. Chris is a student of multisport and one of the most knowledgeable individuals in the nation when it comes to application of and use of a power meter for improving and enhancing performance and execution, more specifically execution of races using a power meter with a focus on long course events. So over the course of the weekend, we're going to take advantage of TJ and use him tomorrow for our presentation, as well as hanging out a little. He's showing me and informing me a bit more about the Normatec MVP recovery device, and which is phenomenal, by the way. So excuse me, my head's swelling up a little bit. This compression's pretty intense. So I'm just going to ask TJ a few questions and get Chris's input on training with power, really, and its application to athletes of all levels. But what I'm actually going to start with is just these guys are going to give me a little recap on their race experience from Ironman Arizona, which was held recently in November in Tempe, and over to TJ, who happened to finish second overall at that event. Just get a quick debrief from TJ on how he felt his race went.
Yeah, so Arizona was a little bit of a redemption race this year. I felt like I was in really great shape and climbed really well the race in Kona, and things kind of unraveled quickly in Kona, and I was quickly derailed. So I wanted to get back on the track and have one more race, and so decided to jump into Arizona 6 weeks apart. It was a little bit challenging to balance the recovery versus the right amount of intensity and volume of training. My coach Cliff English helped plan that out with me, and I feel like I came in with a good plan, but still I knew that I had quite a bit of residual fatigue in my body, especially my legs. I wasn't as able to produce as much power as I wanted to on the bike, and I wasn't able to hold the run pace that I would have liked to. But overall, I felt like it was a good day. Certainly the cool temperatures in Arizona helped. The dry climate was also pretty beneficial for me since I do a lot of training in Tucson, Arizona. It's pretty much a hometown race for me. I knew the course well, and felt like it was a good day, and didn't quite have enough to beat Jordan Rapp on the day, but still turned out a solid performance 6 weeks after Kona.
What was your power data like for the ride?
I don't remember the specifics of it, other than I was a little disappointed with it. I'll go over the file a little bit tomorrow. But I was down a little bit. I certainly faded a little bit about the last 10 miles. Usually my plan is to back off on my power output about the last 5 to 7 miles so I can really focus on my nutrition to set up a good run. So I'll focus on the nutrition aspects, make sure that try to top off as much of my carbohydrate storage as possible to start that run, because I know once you get on the run, it's very difficult to put in solid calories or an abundance of fluid since you're running through the aid stations pretty quickly.
How did that compare to your experience, Chris? What was your what did your power data tell you about how you rode on the day? Given you were in a different race in some respects, TJ was at the pointy end of the field, somewhat isolated at times, but keying off of Jordan for some of the day. Whereas you were, in the age group ranks, it was a strong age group field, a fast course. So I guess there were some groups out there. How's your experience of the bike course there with regard to power?
Arizona is a tough one to judge because it was certainly a unique experience for me, a unique course in the sense that it's a free loop course. So, and being in the age group field, naturally you're going to experience a lot more bikes than I'm used to. Typically, I will be in the top 100 roughly, in the latter half of the bike. In a course like Arizona, that's insignificant because you're experiencing bikes all over the place. In the nature of the flat course and terrain, that there's going to be paths, right? And it's up to you how you want to take advantage of that or not, and be smart and race smart. So it was the lowest. It was my lowest power ever in an Ironman, and yet my fastest bike split, to give you a sense. And obviously some of that is due to the terrain of the course. Some of that is that I think for the first time this is my 11th Ironman, I actually had the opportunity to sort of get in some draft legal change where typically in the latter half of the bike, especially I'm riding alone, there's just not enough people around me to even consider getting into a draft legal change, something you would see that say typically it happens at Kona, but most every Ironman race amongst the pros is this draft legal change that happens, and it happens among the AGers too. But so bottom line is I had that experience at Arizona to a certain degree, and I think my power is reflective of that fact. I mean, whether you're drafting or legally drafting, clearly there's a benefit either way, one being greater than the other, and I think that was one reason why my power data was lower than I probably could have been.
It's fair to say you normally try and build your power through the ride and then probably follow a similar strategy backing off in the last 5 to 7 miles like TJ does. Did you manage to build your power through the ride at AZ, or was that impossible because of the nature of the multi-loop course and the number of people out there?
So in my case, my strategic plan is pretty much the same every race, and it doesn't really. I don't get into sort of tactical changes, which is so that I build. And in the case like Arizona, I built every loop, and as you go back and look at my power data, you can see that I accomplished that. Each loop I did build power slightly. And speed varied depending on the winds, because as you remember, the winds were sort of building. Loop 1, Loop 2 was probably the strongest, and it might have been a little different for you because you being probably a good half hour or so up the field from me, but my experience was with Loop 1, we had some wind, Loop 2 got a little stronger, and Loop 3 it was completely gone. But it's sort of an interesting course because as you go out, you know, you get you obviously have this headwind coming back, you have this tailwind, and in some cases you have a greater tailwind than you did have a headwind because of the building wind, depending on the timing. So it was a strange, it's a hard course to get your head around, in my opinion. For me, something like Canada is much easier to go out and execute and really stick on plan. But for the most part, I was very happy. I mean, I rode fast on as little as power as possible, which is kind of my goal, was to really run well in that race, and I did. So I achieved my goal.